For the course of this year, I, as Speaker from Alberta, am also Chairman of all the speakers in Canada. This afternoon, after question period, the House will go to the estimates of the Department of Advanced Education. This begins the budget process, which was developed by bringing down the budget on Thursday, March the 22nd. Now the House goes to detailed study of those various estimates. This evening, the House will sit from 8 o'clock on to deal with the appropriation bills 12, 13, and 14, and then finish up this evening with budget debate.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to present two petitions, both dealing with the same topic. A total of 1,250 signatures, Mr. Speaker, from the Cochrane area opposing the development of the Western Heritage Centre.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Gold-Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm giving notice now that I will rise after question period under Section 40 to request unanimous consent of the Assembly to congratulate the Canadian women's hockey team on winning the gold yesterday.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor of tabling the 1989 annual report of the Alberta Special Waste Management Corporation.
Introduction of special guests.
Honorable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the legislature a group of 22 students from the Stettler constituency. These students are from the Lakeview Christian School. They're accompanied by their teacher, Wilma Rempel, parents Elmer and Joanne Esau, Alan and Fern Klassen, and Lloyd and Gladys Henner. They are sitting in the gallery. I'd ask them to rise and receive the welcome of the legislature.
Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche, followed by Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly 36 students from Grassland School. They are accompanied by their teachers Anna Johnson and Ray Hewitt, and parents Casey Bazon and Nick Duma. They are seated at the public gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional welcome of this assembly. Thank you.
Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and the members of the Assembly this afternoon a dynamic group of young women who are members of the 91st Girl Guides group in Edmonton Mill Woods. They're accompanied today by their leaders and parents, Lucy Marion, Doreen Hogate, Wendy Biosart, and Lou Williams. They're in the public gallery. I'd ask them to stand now and receive our very warm welcome.
Minister of Family and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure for me to be able to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly 28 social studies students from the Red Deer Junior College located in the constituency of Red Deer South. They are accompanied by their instructor, Angela Jesk, and include two student volunteer drivers, Dave Giori and George Gurkey. They are seated, Mr. Speaker, in the public and members' galleries, and I would ask that they rise and receive the warm reception of this assembly.
Banff Cochrane, followed by Edmonton Gold-Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with great pleasure today that I introduce a man who is well known to many members of this assembly, who served the Banff Cochrane constituency with a great deal of enthusiasm, dedication, and commitment to his constituents from 1979 to 1989. I consider it a real privilege to call him my friend. He's seated in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, and I would ask Greg Stevens to please stand and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
Edmonton Gold-Bar, followed by Edmonton
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this afternoon I wish to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 4 Friends of Daycare from the Daycare Society of Alberta and the Concerned Parents for Progress in Daycare. They are Rob Helford, Barb Elms, Vera Woodrow, and Brian Gilks, and they're working hard for childcare in our province. They're seated in the public gallery. Mr. Speaker, I'd ask the House to welcome them.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce today a group visiting from Spirit River. They are the youth group from the Christian Community Church of Spirit River. Assisting them today is Tim Gurnett, and also Sarah and Rebecca Gurnett are amongst them. I'd ask all of them to rise and be welcomed by the Assembly.
Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you, members of this House, the President, representative of a very important industry, agricultural industry in the province of Alberta, Mr. Joe Smith, who's President of the Alberta Beekeepers Association. He's also a constituent of the Honourable Mr. Adair's, Peace River. Also, Mr. David Tharl from the Bonnyville constituency, who's a member of the Beekeepers Advisory Committee, and Mr. Dale Philpott from the Bow Valley constituency, who's also a member of the Beekeepers Advisory Committee. If they would please rise and receive the allocates of this House.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct the questions to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, frankly, because of the mismanagement of this government, Albertans, ordinary Albertans, are being forced to try to bail them out of their mismanagement, Mr. Speaker. We saw in the budget taxes, 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 and more taxes, Mr. Speaker. Health taxes, fuel taxes, utility costs, nursing home fees, Blue Cross premiums, motor vehicles, the list goes on, Mr. Speaker. They've found more ways to tax people than I would have believed possible. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, they say it's not too much to ask for ordinary Albertans. They're saying that this is necessary. It's a tough budget, but it's necessary, Mr. Speaker. But at the same time, I notice that the cabinet ministers themselves are spending more and more and more, Mr. Speaker. Sort of a do as I say, not as I do attitude, Mr. Speaker. And I would point out to the Premier that we have more cabinet ministers than any other province outside of Quebec. We're tied with Ontario, has over 3 times the population, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier, if this government really wants to save money and send a message of restraint to ordinary Albertans, why doesn't this Premier cut the number of cabinet ministers in this government?
Well, what a remarkable request, Mr. Speaker. I cut the size of the cabinet by 5 since I've been Premier. Surely the honourable member must be paying some attention.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the point is we have 27 cabinet ministers tied with Ontario, only Quebec ahead of us. You could do a hell of a lot more cutting, Mr. Speaker, as far as I'm concerned.
That's right.
Now, my question, Mr. Speaker, is this, and it's not only the fact that we have this many, Mr. Speaker, but I noticed that the budget that all of them except 4 got an increase. Attorney General's office gets a 45% increase. The Minister of Public Works office gets a 39% increase. Only 4 ministers' offices out of this ridiculously big cabinet actually took a cabinet. My question is, if we're really going to follow restraint, why didn't the Premier insist that the cabinet ministers do their bit for deficit reduction and cut their spending?
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, as the provincial treasurer announced, this is a restraint budget. This is the government that has had the toughest fiscal management in Canada over the last 4 years. It continues in this budget. Now, there are certain responsibilities that various ministers have that the people of Alberta ask them to fulfill those responsibilities, and they require funding to do it. We are going right into today, Mr. Speaker, we are going into the estimates. That's a perfect place for the Honourable Leader of the Opposition or any members of his party or any members of the legislature to raise these issues and see, are the ministers spending too much in their departments or in their offices? Let's find out what they are made up of, what those estimates are made up of. perfectly reasonable suggestion, and I think I welcome all members doing it.
Mr. Speaker, Premier knows full well once we do an estimates, they're not going to change one single penny, Mr. Speaker.
Right,
That's the reality. And the point is, this Premier is talking about restraint when we have the biggest cabinet, one of the biggest cabinets in the country, and all of them are getting increases. Some restraint, Mr. Speaker. But let's look at the Premier's own office. 20% increase, Mr. Speaker, a 20% increase in the Premier's own office. Why doesn't this Premier set an example by tightening up the spending in his own office, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are a variety of responsibilities that report to the Premier, and those responsibilities require that funding in order to have them operate. They are matters that normally have been approved by this legislature, and therefore they have to be funded. So I welcome the Honourable Leader of the Opposition also in the estimates going into the details of the Premier's office. I might point out, Mr. Speaker, when I was a member of the Opposition, and we had something like $6,000 in opposition for research. We now have them with $1 million. I suppose, Mr. Speaker, that's a pretty remarkable increase. Perhaps they should give it. Perhaps they should give it back, Mr. Speaker.
Give it back.
Albertans do not find you very funny, Mr. Premier. They know who's getting taxed and what's happening, Mr. Speaker. Sorry to the provincial treasurer, Mr. Speaker. Two aspects of the budget was a taxing budget, tax, Mr. Speaker. The other was to I believe, overestimate. We talked about this, the revenues coming into the province. That's how they're going to try to cover up their spending with the cabinet ministers, Mr. Speaker. But in last Thursday, the government included $75 million in federal stabilization payments and anticipated revenues for the fiscal year which ends this Saturday, Mr. Speaker. This is on top of the $250 million that is budgeted as revenue for next year, Mr. Speaker. I have a simple question to the Treasurer. Can the Treasurer tell us if he's managed to collect this $75 million that he's counting on for the fiscal year, and if not, is he going to get it by Saturday?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we've had a discussion already with respect to the stabilization claim, and I have pointed out to Albertans how important this is to our fiscal plan. And I've also pointed out the difficulty we have in collecting the amount of money. The problem we have, Mr. Speaker, is mostly one of trying to realize it or to recognize it in our accounts. I'm not sure that we will recognize anything in the current fiscal year ending March 31st, 1990. The deadline, by the way, is not March 31st. Should it be that the federal government decides to make some payment, normal accrual accounting allows for that to be reflected even if it's after March 31st. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that we now are getting closer to the period of certainty. The legislation itself indicates a very important date, that is December 31st, 1990, for it is on that date that the federal government has to make its payment. And that's why in this year, Mr. Speaker, we included the amount of $250 million. Should we not receive the $75 million from last year, obviously we'll pick it up in this year, Mr. Speaker, and that would simply increase and afford us to reduce the deficit much sooner. That's the plan, Mr. Speaker. Albertans understand it, and I have explained it to the House previously.
What a hose job.
Mr. Speaker, to the Treasury says, should they make a payment? Well, that'd be nice if they did, Mr. Speaker, but we're talking about the budget. So he's going to say, oh, well, 250, add 75. You can put down whatever figures you want, Mr. Speaker, if you're not going to get the money. Right. And that's the point.
That's right.
And my question is, and to the Treasurer, to make it clear then he is saying that he doesn't know whether we're going to get the $75 million or not. That's what it comes down to, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
Right.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what it comes down to is that Albertans know the legitimacy of this claim. The claim, Mr. Speaker, totals $540 million. Even if we took the 275s, the $75 million which we received last year, the $75 million which is due this year, and the 245, we're still far below the 540. What we have done, Mr. Speaker, is proven our claim out past the 1991 year end, because we fully believe some of this may well end up in court before settlement is effected. We do think, though, that the amount of money which we put in the budget this year, the $250 million, is a real claim and will be recognized by the federal government and will be paid to the province. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, it's due to us. I do hope that the leader of the opposition joins in this fight, Mr. Speaker, because all Albertans should focus on this issue. The federal government owes it to us. It's the law of Canada, and we deserve it here in Alberta because of the sharp drop in our revenues in 1986-87.
Mr. Speaker, I'll go down to Ottawa with him. I'm sure I'll have a better record than he has of getting some money.
That's right.
But the point that we're talking about is the budget and clarity in the budget, Mr. Speaker. In the public accounts of 1987-88, it says, and I quote, "The federal legislation permits the Minister of Finance of Canada to determine the amount, if any, that will be paid to the province." He's talking about the stabilization. And it says, Mr. Speaker, no accrual for fiscal stabilization has been made in the 1987-88 or prior fiscal years, as the amount that will be collected cannot be estimated reasonably. Made sense then, Mr. Speaker. Why did the minister change it in this year's budget, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've tried to point out to the member from Edmonton Norwood that, in fact, the December 1990 date is now before us. The government has to make a payment to us. It's now due and payable. It's not a question of may they pay it, it's a question of what amount will they pay. They've already advanced $75 million to us, Mr. Speaker, which indicates clearly that there's a debt due to us. What we're now sorting out, Mr. Speaker, is how much. Should it not be settled by negotiation, and we would prefer that route, and ongoing discussions are continuing, then of course we'd go to court, Mr. Speaker, and we would like to have that resolved as soon as possible so we can get and make the claim. We'll settle, Mr. Speaker. We'll get the dollars. It's due to us. It's been paid to BC historically, and we think that we'll have a very legitimate claim. As to whether or not it's $540 million, Mr. Speaker, I don't know, but we have put in the budget a reasonable estimate, which I think is due to Alberta. We're going to get it. I hope the opposition member continues to support us on this issue.
Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday it is reported that the Premier publicly criticized the ALPAC hearing process, criticized that process by indicating that there was a skewing of the interveners in terms of there being more negative than positive, and in terms of the board failing to ask certain questions of the interveners that were making presentations. My first question is to the Minister of Environment. Given that the highly experienced chairman of this review process is a respected chairman in Alberta, and given that the council is highly qualified, is it not correct, Mr. Minister, that both these people were appointed by you or the province or the provincial government?
Mr. Speaker, the appointment of the chairman and members of the panel was made jointly by the federal government and the province of Alberta.
Mr. Premier, my next question is to you. Given that the rules of procedure were fairly clearly set out by the chairman, in that presentations by ALPAC were first, questions by the board were second, interveners made the next presentations, questions were put to the interveners by the board members, the board or others asked questions of both sides, and finally parties were allowed to provide rebuttal evidence after some 1 month after presentations. Do you not agree, Mr. Premier, that this process was the fairest possible, that nobody could quarrel with the fairness and the justness of the process that was set out by the chairman and the council?
Mr. Speaker, as I said on the day when the government received the report and responded to it, I said that this was the first time in history such a board and such a process had been conducted. Frankly, we gave them a very tough job, Mr. Speaker. I think they did the best they could, and I thank them for the valuable job that they did. There's no question in my mind, though, that these matters, this is not a perfect matter. This is not a perfect process. We're doing something that had never been done before. And frankly, in reviewing the report, I think there are areas where the board did not go deeply enough into the assessment. Rather, they reported back what had been presented to them. And I know that in the future that we will try to make sure we learn from this process and that we have a process that is more complete, one that learns from this experience, which was a valuable experience. Whenever you do something for the first time, it's valuable, you learn from it, and the people did a very fine job. But there's no question in looking at that report that there were some assessments needed to be made. After all, to merely mirror what is presented, you have the situation that if you happen to have 10 out of 11 people who are against something, you can't have a report come out 99 to 1 in terms of a negative. Obviously, there's got to be some assessment in that kind of a panel. We're looking forward to that. I want to make sure that the people of Northern Alberta know that with their hopes and aspirations of being able to develop their communities all across the north, that the government will deal with these matters in a cool, balanced, non-emotional way, so that we can, in fact, make sure we have the best assessment and the best judgments for the people of Alberta's future.
Mr. Speaker, given that the Minister of Environment has said publicly that this is the most comprehensive study done in Canadian history, and given that these rules of procedure were clear and precise, and given the fact that rebuttal time was extended, and given the fact that ALPAC made a substantive presentation at the end as rebuttal, what specific issues is it that the government takes issue with today?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've told the House and I've told the people of Alberta, the government is doing a thorough assessment of the report. There are perhaps 4 or 5 departments that are involved in this, Mr. Speaker. I don't think it should be a big mystery to the leader of the Liberal Party that there may well be some things in here that the government won't agree with. I don't think that should surprise him at all. This never happened before. We're learning from it. I think it was a valuable experience. I know one area where I have since had meetings with the Native people, the Métis people, who have said to me they felt that they had a strong position of support, and that is not reflected in that report. And there is one area I know where the people have come and spoken to me and said, look, we were there. We supported that. We don't see that in there. That's perhaps is one of the areas, but we're doing a thorough assessment.
Calgary Milliken, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, this government committed to battle the drunk drivers and try to stop the death and the carnage on our highways, and our Check Stop program is starting to make its impact, and now I read, Check Stop hit my funding cuts, Check Stop funding cut, and can the Solicitor General explain to the Assembly why he would cut the funding to the Check Stop program?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For those of us that have the opportunity to rub shoulders with the Treasurer, once in a while we too learn some magic. And I'm pleased to advise the honourable member from Calgary that in fact the Check Stop program is not being affected by anything we do in my department. There has been an indication that serious cutbacks in my department are affecting a number of programs. That is categorically untrue, Mr. Speaker, because what has occurred is there has been $500,000 in cuts on the capital side of my program, capital equipment which was bought for Check Stop, the International Congress which is taking place this Thursday at around $200,000, which is drawing people from all over the world to Edmonton on this International Congress on impaired driving, plus a number of other things that are only one-time costs in 89 and 90, which are taken out of the budget at $500,000 from last year. The reduction for my total impaired program was $230,000, which means, in fact, programming was enhanced and improved $270,000 for 1990-91.
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I take it then we have a commitment that the check stop program is carrying on and they have more money, if that's correct. But in 1988, 19,000 Albertans got caught and lost their licenses. In 1989, 17,000 Albertans got caught and lost their licenses. Could the Solicitor General advise the Assembly if we are going to carry on and try to go beyond just catching them and try to stop them from getting in their cars, going out and getting caught and losing their licenses? Otherwise, we'll have no drivers left in this province with driver's licenses.
Mr. Speaker, education is still the biggest part of the program of the Solicitor General's Department and this government. We believe that without education and a very concentrated effort there, we will never resolve this problem to anywhere which is an acceptable level in any case. And we, in fact, meet with all community groups and continue to support any of those groups that are active. Therefore, we become particularly disappointed when community groups, without finding out what the true information is, choose to slam the government for something that they have been advised by someone in the media or otherwise as what is perceived as happening in the program. This is the place to find out what is happening in the program, right from my department or right from this government, not other places.
Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, from the day that the government received the ALPAC review panel report, there have been two stories coming out of the government. The one group, represented by the Minister of the Environment, accepted the need for more scientific research before a decision could be made on a project of this size. The other group, represented by the member for Athabasca, the Minister of Agriculture, and others, said all they agreed to was to set up a committee, scientific committee, to look at the report, maybe do a hatchet job on it. The Premier, by his comments late last week, clearly identified himself with the second group, the group that wants to do a hatchet job on the report. And I simply want to know from the Premier how he can continue to sit in judgment on this project when he has such an obviously biased view of it.
Doesn't listen very well, does he?
Mr. Speaker, it's remarkable the honourable member can come to that conclusion, having heard me dealing with the question from the leader of the Liberal Party. I have to either assume that his researchers have given him a question which he will read without paying any attention to anything else he's heard in the question period today,
Most likely
and and not being able to adjust. I've dealt with the matter with the leader of the Liberal Party. I've told them about the assessment that the government's going through, and I'm surprised the honourable member comes to the conclusion he just asked.
The Premier says that he didn't see what he wanted in the report. Last Tuesday, March 20th, the Premier, the Minister of Forests, Minister of Economic Development, and the member for Athabasca Lac La Biche had a secret meeting with Alberta Pacific. At that time, they announced or told the members of that delegation that they wished to switch the technology to put hydrogen peroxide in instead of chlorine. In view of the significant absence of the Minister of the Environment from that meeting, I want the Premier's assurance that a new ALPAC proposal means a new EIA. And will he assure the House that there won't be a bait and switch, they won't use an EIA on a different project, which incidentally concluded there should be more research done. They won't use that EIA to justify a quick approval of a new project.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable members of the NDP party constantly seem to be trying to develop some image of a secret meeting. What kind of nonsense that is? These people walked in the front door of the legislature, walked up the stairs, into the Premier's office, through all of the people who are there, into a meeting. We had the members of our cabinet who were in the city and involved with that matter meet with them. They did not make a new proposal. They are responding in part to the report. I think they should. The Minister of Environment happened to be away at other responsibilities, but certainly, Mr. Speaker, there's no question that the Minister of Environment is part of our cabinet, our caucus. We work together as a team. I take it that the member from Jasper Place doesn't understand that kind of thing, the kind of teamwork that we have in this government.
Doesn't want. Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back to the budget. Mr. Speaker, we've heard from the Premier that the intent of this budget was to allow all Albertans to share the painful debt load and help to dig us out. Yet in reality, the way the budget has come down and the way this government has singled out one group, they've managed to attack one group of people that can't afford any extra costs to their personal budget. It's not a coincidence, Mr. Speaker, that the government has chosen to inflict the brunt of these sly and regressive taxes on Albertans who have the least amount of political power as well as the least amount of money. These are the families who are barely making it now. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. With the Premier's supposed commitment to families, I'd like to know, and I think the members of the Assembly would like to know, with whom the Premier has consulted regarding the effects this budget will have on families already struggling to make ends meet.
Well, Mr. Speaker, just tell the honourable member that in the course of my responsibilities as Premier and MLA, leader of our party, I've certainly discussed with all the people of Alberta from time to time in a variety of ways, in meetings, in their homes and communities, telephone calls, letters. We certainly talked, and then of course our MLAs bring information to caucus. Our cabinet members bring material to us, information, and then with our responsibilities in governing this province, that we then make a judgment, bring that judgment, lay it before the legislature, and have the legislature approve them or not. That's the process that we're going through.
Mr. Speaker, seems to me it would have been prudent to discuss the consequences with some of the Albertans who are working most intimately with income security and know the story. Mr. Speaker, my second question to the Premier is, will the Premier now consider a provincial tax credit for low-income families to shield them, to allow them to keep going and to keep them in the labor force?
Mr. Speaker, in the course of last several years, when the honourable member is being in the legislature, she'll know that when we had a tax cut in the last year, and in that tax cut we also removed we either removed 500,000 Albertans from paying taxes or lowered their taxes. There was a dramatic assistance to low-income Albertans. The same is true and was explained by the Honourable Minister of Health recently with regards to health care insurance premiums. The government's always concerned, Mr. Speaker, to making sure that we help those who can't help themselves. Now, if the honourable member wants to recommend that this legislature consider a certain kind of tax treatment, I think that's one of her responsibilities as a member of the legislature, to place it before the House and have the House consider it and debate it. It's one of the reasons we're here, and I'm sure my good friend will take that opportunity to bring it before the House.
Councillor Slave Lake. I'm sorry, Athabasca Lac-La-Biche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Environment. While too many of my constituents continue to be unemployed and live in poverty, thanks to the socialists to my left and liberals, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, they've succeeded, Mr. Speaker. They've succeeded in stalling major economic initiatives that would have created thousands of jobs for my constituents, for ordinary Albertans. They're worried about taxes. First, you got to have a job in order to pay taxes. My question to the Honourable Minister is, when will the scientists be recruited that will do the final assessment on the LPAC study?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're going through the selection process right now, but one of the difficulties involved is that there are so few firms who know that much about chlorinated organics, dioxins, and furans that we're having a difficult time selecting a firm, and we want to make sure that this is an absolutely independent assessment of the scientific data. Therefore, we want to make sure that the firm selected is not associated with the pulp and paper industry here, or we've already had the hearings on it, Mr. Speaker. We want to make sure that it's done absolutely right. We're going to be interviewing 2 more firms, and hopefully we'll be able to make a selection within the next week or so.
Mr. Speaker, these Blues Brothers don't want to hear good news. Mr. Speaker, could a minister give some assurance to my constituents in this assembly that this assessment will be completed within a reasonable timeline, like within 30 days?
Well, Mr. Speaker, both the Premier and this minister gave an undertaking to not only the honourable member's constituents, but all Albertans, that this process would be carried out as fairly and as expeditiously as possible.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the weekend, more of the constituents that I spoke to told me that they've just had enough of this government increasing flat, regressive taxes, especially health care taxes.
Hear, hear.
In fact, Mrs. Connolly called me, Mr. Speaker. She's a diabetic. She's a diabetic who wants me to demand an apology from the Treasurer for saying that these increases in health surcharges and taxes are equivalent to the cost of just a couple of beers. It's not fair for her, Mr. Speaker. Now, given the fact that the government's own utilization report shows that the actual number of insured medical services that Albertans are using is actually decreasing, how can the Minister of Health, in all conscience, go along with this insensitive Treasurer and increase the health tax premium by 15% for all persons, including Mrs. Connolly, and then today slip in a $700 increase for seniors in nursing homes?
Mrs. Connolly, phone you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, as we went through in quite a good deal of detail on Friday, healthcare premiums in this province are not a tax. They are a premium on the healthcare insurance plan. There's a difference. If we look at the premiums we pay, for example, for insuring our homes, if we look at the premiums we pay for insuring our cars, perhaps we can put health at the higher level at which it has been placed in this province.
The name of the game is not to shout down the minister, honourable members. And there's great difficulty with the PA system at that end of the House because the cabinet ministers who attempt to reply, as well as opposition members who wish to get into question period, have to turn more and more this direction, and therefore the microphones are not able to pick them up directly. So please, consideration. Minister of Health, please continue.
Further, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the concern raised by an individual who the honourable member named in this House, I think if we want to look at the coverage for diabetics in this province, we are currently under our programs covering or providing supplies to approximately 15,000 diabetics in Alberta. Certainly there is the question which was raised at the legislature a week ago when the honourable member and the leader of the Liberal Party were there with me, and we met with many people from the Alberta Diabetic Association. I revealed to them then that I'm reviewing the benefits under the Alberta Aids to Daily Living program and hope to be coming with a rearrangement of some of those funding mechanisms in time. I'm not ready yet to do so, but certainly I can assure the individual that the honourable member has named in this House that the issue of diabetes is one that I'm looking at very carefully for community support services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister misinterprets. The person called because of an inappropriate comment by the treasurer saying that it was like two beers a week that these fees were. Now today the minister even slipped in another increase. It wasn't in the budget, but she's talking about $2 a day more for seniors in nursing home, which totals to $700 more a year for seniors. And I want to ask the minister that given the fact that she is increasing these per diems charged to seniors in nursing homes, but is not passing that per diem on to the nursing homes' food and rehab and nursing care, is it not the case that in fact the minister is scrimping off seniors in this province to improve the treasurer's books and not in fact improving the quality of care that seniors in this province deserve?
Mr. Speaker, I just want to correct an interpretation which the honourable member has that this was not part of the budget announcements last Thursday night. I think if you were to check the budget address, you would find that in fact they were. Further details were provided today, Mr. Speaker, which will see the long-term care accommodation rates in our province increased from the existing rate for standard beds of $14 to $16. We have ensured that those increases are affordable because, of course, Albertans living in long-term care institutions in our province will have by far the largest disposable income after accommodation rates are paid. We've ensured that this is full room and board coverage for people who are living in long-term care institutions. Our last increase in terms of fees for long-term care accommodation was January the 1st of 1987. And finally, in addition to this increase that we're asking Albertans to pay for, the province is directing an additional $24 million into long-term care in our province to more appropriately spend some of the health care dollars in that very special area.
Bakerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 1987, when the Conservatives were trying to convince Albertans that they were going to wrestle the deficit to the ground, they increased the price of farm fuel by 23 cents a gallon. And in 1989, when the Premier was trying to express his newfound love of rural Alberta and buy farmers' votes, they lowered the price of farm diesel fuel by the same amount. Now that they're safely re-elected, Mr. Speaker, at least for the time being, they come along and in last Thursday night's budget jack up the price of farm fuel by 10 cents a gallon. It's no wonder, Mr. Speaker, that farmers are saying enough is enough and it's time for a change. And I'd like to ask the Premier, what right does this government have to play now you have it, now you don't, with the legitimate needs of Alberta farmers?
Right on.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member should travel throughout Alberta as I do. You'd find that the farmers and ranchers of this province are just as intent on being able to have a balanced budget in our province. They assure me that they want to help as much as anybody else in dealing with that problem. It's true, Mr. Speaker, that there was an increase, but there's still difference between non-ranchers and farmers, some 63 cents a gallon, which is the lowest energy costs of any farmers and ranchers in North America. That's our commitment to our farmers and ranchers. They know it, and they support it very well.
The Premier's playing cheap political games, and he should know better. But seeing as how, Mr. Speaker, that his own Minister of Agriculture's department is predicting a 54% decline in net farm income for 1990, and that since that time his federal cousins in Ottawa jacked up the price of farm fuel by almost 20 cents a gallon, I'd like to ask the Premier what calculations he's done to determine that Alberta farmers can afford this $20 million increase in the price of farm fuel.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, I, in a way, answered the question already, but I do travel across this province, talk to the farmers and ranchers. They tell me that they are prepared to do their share. I should just draw the attention of the honourable member of the various matters that the farmers and ranchers and the government cooperate on. They have the lowest energy costs in North America. They have some $2.5 billion at 20-year long-term money at 9%. Nobody has that kind of assistance from our farmers, for our farmers and ranchers. We are placing some $500 million investment into providing single telephone line service to our farmers and ranchers in rural Alberta. Mr. Speaker, we have had a total overhaul of the crop insurance program. I was talking to farmers and ranchers, Mr. Speaker, on Saturday night. A large group who attended a function in my constituency. And they were telling me that they liked this budget. As a matter of fact, many were saying, Mr. Speaker, if it's necessary for the future of Alberta, they're prepared to take even tougher steps toward balancing the budget.
Edmonton Whitemud. Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you shake down this budget, looking at the revenue side, looking at the expenditure side, there is a significant reduction in the government's programs toward impaired driving. The minister responsible is quoted as stating that he cut such programs because there is no evidence that the education campaign has reduced impaired driving. Mr. Speaker, stats speak differently. The experts in the community speak differently. They are saying that such programs reduce death, injuries, and property damage in Alberta. And I'm sure that all of us here agree that such objectives are essential. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Solicitor General, Does the minister believe that it is morally right for his government to increase taxes on motorists by $137 million and to budget for a $25 million increase in transfers from the ALCB when at the same time it is cutting impaired...
Honourable member, thank you for the fourth paragraph. Solicitor General, please.
I'm not too certain which one of those questions to attack, Mr. Speaker, but it is not too often, in fact, that I get to clarify two positions that were placed by the media in over the weekend, both erroneously. I never at any time before, during, or after any interview have ever indicated that the programs have not worked. I am convinced that all of our programs are in fact working. What I have said, Mr. Speaker, is that I will not put in new programs in 1990-91 until I know what the rate of success has been on those programs that are already in, so whether we know whether we need enhancement, improvement, or new programs. And that answer still stands. In respect to the increase in revenues that the honourable member speaks of that we have there, I'm not quite sure how we can attack the deficit if, in fact, every piece of revenue or dollar we increase is put on programs again. I will need some further consultation with the Honourable Treasurer in that matter.
There's other drugs you can push.
Mr. Speaker, does the minister not feel that it is hypocritical for his government to cut impaired driving prevention programs by 24% in the same week that it is hosting the global conference on impaired driving?
I'll try one more time, Mr. Speaker, and I suppose we'll run out. We have not cut driver-impaired programs. In fact, they have been enhanced $280,000.
Bow Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Environment, and it has to do with the hazardous waste disposal unit at the Canadian Forces Base in Suffield. There's been a lot of concern from my constituents, Mr. Speaker, about the involvement of Alberta Environment, and I would ask the Minister if he or any of the department up until this time have been involved in an environmental protection plan for the Suffield.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member refers to Operation Swift Shore, which is a federal proposal to clean up contaminated sites and sites that have been affected by ammunition and so on at Canadian Forces Bases Suffield. And basically, our department has been involved with the federal government all along. It is a federal government program and therefore is covered by the Federal Environmental Assessment Review process, but we are in constant touch with the federal government relative to this particular situation. We believe that the cleanup can and must take place on DND lands and that there be no transportation of waste off the base.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents readily agree that the chemical weapons should be disposed of, and they should be disposed of on site. However, they are asking the question of what happens to the disposal unit after the chemical weapons have been disposed of. They have some concern that the disposal unit will be left there and used for other hazardous waste disposal.
Mr. Speaker, the department, like the honourable member's constituents, are also wondering what's going to happen to the facility after it has fulfilled its usefulness. And we'll be meeting with the federal government again on April the 5th to get a determination as to what's going to happen with the facility once it has fulfilled its requirements.
Edmonton Avonmore, followed by Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Solicitor General. During the throne speech and the budget address, we heard a lot of rhetoric about this government's commitment to the family and about supporting programs to improve mental health and reduce violence in the home. And yet, Mr. Speaker, at the same time, this government has stopped funding the only program in the province to treat young offenders, the Phoenix program in Calgary. To the Solicitor General, will the minister reinstate funding for this program so that the serious and devastating problem of sexual abuse in families can be treated, and so that these young offenders do not grow into adult offenders who wreak havoc in society.
Mr. Speaker, the Phoenix program, which was a wonderful program run out of the Woods home in Calgary, was in fact being seriously underutilized. And it was a decision of this department that the people that were in the home could in fact be removed from the home, and arrangements made for special attention to those people in counseling on a contract basis. And in order to save several hundreds of thousands of dollars, we have in fact brought our contract to an end with the Woods home, due mostly to the fact that the cost to the department or to the government was between $30,000 and $40,000 per year per inmate.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have word from a parent who is deeply concerned that there is no program available to their child unless they, in fact, have to pay themselves for the treatment. Will this government now commit itself to ensuring that all young sex offenders have access to treatment at the expense of the government, that is, that they're not denied access because their parents cannot afford to pay, or that they are not denied access to a program because they have not been sentenced to time in custody or probation?
Mr. Speaker, if they haven't been sentenced to time in custody or in probation, in all probability they're not the responsibility of my department. And I can't give on any undertaking where there is something that is not the responsibility for which I have as Solicitor General. But I can assure the honourable member, my report, my detailed report on the people that were in fact in the Woods home and the Phoenix contract covered every single individual in there, a separate report on that person, and as far as I'm aware and have been made aware, every single one of them are being treated. If that information is incorrect, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the honourable member to supply the name of the person she's referring to.
Sorry. We have a request under Standing Order 40, the member for Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request unanimous consent under Standing Order 40 that this Assembly send a message of congratulations to the Canadian women's hockey team on their recent gold medal victory at the Women's World Hockey Championships in Ottawa this weekend. Mr. Speaker, this is the first time there has been a women's hockey championship held, and in true form, as we would expect, the Canadian team came through with the gold. It wasn't done, Mr. Speaker, without immense effort, without energy, and without the kind of spirit that is typical of Canadian teams. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the entire Assembly will support this resolution to congratulate them.
All those in favor of giving consent that the matter proceed, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Unanimous consent has been given.
Oppose the motion as circulated.
Call for the question. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Let the record show unanimously. Orders of the day.
Committee of Supply.